Hello and welcome to my guide to the 2022 Key Stage 2 Maths SATs, the Paper 1 Arithmetic paper. It's been a few years since I've done one of these videos because of COVID. We haven't actually had any new SATs papers since 2019. So I'm going to run through this paper. Now what I recommend you do is, if you're new to this, if you haven't sat this test before, download the PDF. There'll be a link to that in the video description. Give yourself 30 minutes maximum to do this test. Do it as best you can in the 30 minutes. Come back to this video and I'll show you if you got the marks or not. And if you didn't, I'll show you exactly how to get them for next time. Just while I'm here, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and liking this video. It goes a long way to supporting me. I bring out these videos for free. I spend a lot of time doing them, so if you do like it, please give us that thumbs up and a subscribe. I really do appreciate that. Okay, number 1. So in the first few questions, what we really need to try and do is waste minimal time. Try and do them as efficiently as possible, yet getting the answer right. So what I tend to look for is some little tricks. Now, if we look at the first question, we have a number here, 501 plus 649. Now, I know that 49 plus 1 is going to give me a nice round number of 50. So 500 plus 650 is 1,150. Now all I need to do is add 1,150 to 6,155. You might not need to do any working out for this, but if you do, just do it like this. Column addition. 0 add 5 is 5. 5 add 5 is 10, so we put our 0, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, and 1 plus 6 is 7. So our answer is 7,305. Okay, number 2 is a really nice one. I like when I get one of these because there's no working out at all. Anything multiplied by 0 is always 0, so I can put that in without thinking at all. Just remember that anything times 0 is always 0. Some people make the mistake of putting this number, but that's wrong. It has to be 0. Number 3, 10 plus something equals 302. So you can do the inverse to work this out. So 302 subtract 10 will give us our answer. So the answer is 292. Number 4, 2,400 divided by 2. Now you should know that dividing by 2 is the same as halving, so there isn't really much working out to do here. The answer is half of 2,400, which is 1,200. Number 5, something plus 70 equals 485. Again, we can do the inverse here, so 485 subtract 70 is 415. Now, if you want to check your answer, just go back through the calculation again. 415 plus 70 equals 485. So my answer is right. Number 6, 6.48 plus 8.6. We might need to do a bit of working out here, so I'm just going to lay my numbers out like this. 6.48 plus 8.6. Now, what they're trying to do is catch you out here with your place value. Now, because there's nothing here, we can put a 0. So 8 plus 0, draw my line first. 8 plus 0 is 8. 4 plus 6 is 10. So we'll put our 0, carry the 1. 6 plus 8 plus 1 is 15. Don't forget to put your decimal place in the right place, right in the middle. So our answer is 15.08. Number 7 is just trying to catch you out by the order in which they've written this calculation. So normally you would see something divided by something equals, and then you put your answer at this side on the right. But they're trying to catch you out. They swapped everything around, but it makes no difference to the calculation. So what I would do is I would pretend that 0 is not there and say, what's 24 divided by 8? If you know your 8 times table, you know that is 3. Now, because 240 is 10 times bigger, it's got that 0 on the end, so I know it's 10 times bigger. My answer should also be 10 times bigger, so the answer is 30. And you can double check that. 240 divided by 8, you should find the answer is 30. Number 9, 840 divided by 5. You could go through the full calculation, maybe do the bus stop method for this, but what I do, if I'm dividing by 5, I divide by 10 because that's an easy calculation, and then I just double my answer. So it's all about finding those tricks, like I said. So what I'm going to do is divide it by 10. So 840 divided by 10 is 84. We need to double it. 84 multiplied by 2 equals 168. So that's our answer. Number 9, what's 7,306? Subtract 1,847. The best way of doing this is in column subtraction, so you make sure that you've got your numbers in the right place and you don't miss anything out. So I'll do my best to do this neatly. It is a bit of a challenge doing it on the computer. So first thing first, we start with our units, our smallest numbers here. Now 6 subtract 7 we can't do. We're going to end up with a negative number there. So we would look to the next column to borrow one, but there's nothing there either. So I need to look at these double columns here. So we've got 30. I'm going to borrow 1 away from 30. Now 1 off 30, you should know, is 29. So I'm going to change that to a 2, change that to a 9. And that 1 I borrowed is going to go there. So 16, we can do that now. 16 subtract 7 is 9. 9 subtract 4 is 5. 2 subtract 8, again we can't do that, so we're going to have to borrow another one. Put a 6 there, put the one we borrowed there. 12 subtract 8 is 4. 6 subtract 1 is 5. So our answer is 5,459. Number 10, what is 1,010 multiplied by 10? You shouldn't need to do a great deal of working out here. If you multiply by 10, the whole number is going to move one space on the place value. So we have 1 in the thousands column here. That's going to move into the tens of thousands. So we're going to have a 1 here. Everything's going to move up 1. 0, need our comma after thousands. The 1 has moved. We've got a 0 there. But because we've moved and there's nothing in this place, we need to put another 0. So 1,010 multiplied by 10 is 10,100. That's our answer. Okay, number 11, 560 divided by 7. This is a really good test of your times tables. So again, like I mentioned before, I'm going to pretend that 0 is not there. 56 divided by 7, well, I know that is 8. But because our number is 10 times bigger, so is my answer. So it's not just 8, it's 10 times 8, which is 80. And you can check that by doing the inverse. 80 multiplied by 7 is correct. It's 560. Number 12, what is 6 times 10 times 11? When you've got multiplication like this, it doesn't matter how many numbers you've got, you can do them in any order you want, as long as you don't miss any of them out. So I try and do it as easily as possible. And actually, in this case, it's probably easiest to do it in the order that they've given us. 6 times 10, we'll do that bit first. 6 times 10 is 60. 60 now, multiplied by 11. We can times it by 10. We know the answer is 600. But we've got one more lot of 60, so our answer is 660. Number 13, what's 1,080 divided by 9? And this is a similar question to one we've just done. If we forget the zeros there, how many 9s go into 108? If you know your times table, you know the answer is 12. However, this is 10 times bigger, so we're going to need an answer that's 10 times bigger. So our answer is 120. As I mentioned before, if you want to double check, do the inverse. What's 120 multiplied by 9? You should find that the answer is 1,080. Number 14 is testing your knowledge of place values. So what's 500,000 subtract 5,000? You shouldn't need to do a great deal of working out for this one. It should be 495,000. An easy way to remember that is to think, well, how many thousands are there in 500,000? Well, there's 500 of them. So if we subtract 5 away from 500, we have 495, but it's in thousands, so our answer is 495,000. Number 15, they're trying to catch us out again by putting the equal sign to the left, but it's just like any other calculation. For this one, I would probably recommend doing long multiplication just to keep things simple. So you lay that out like this, 596 multiplied by 7, and we just work each number individually. So what's 7 times 6? The answer is 42. We put our 2, carry the 4. 7 times 9 is 63, plus the 4 is 67. Put the 7, carry the 6. I'm going to put it up there because my computer only draws them quite big. I would normally have them a bit smaller, so I want it out the way. I want to remember I've used this. What is 7 times 5? The answer is 35, plus 6 is 41. So our answer is 4,172. Number 16, this is another similar place value question. So what is 2.12 divided by 10? When we times by 10, all the numbers move one space to the left, and when we divide by 10, they do the opposite. They move one space to the right. So this 2 is going to move next to the decimal place. So there's nothing here now. It will be 0, point, and now everything's moved one space. 2, 1, 2. So our answer is 0.212. Number 17, what is 672 divided by 21? So they've already set it out for us in this way, so they want us to use this. Now, I find it easier to use short division for this. You can use long division. However, for my purposes, I like using short division. And you've got to use whatever works for you, unless it says use a specific method. So I'm going to say how many 21s fit into 6? The answer is obviously 0. So how many 21s fit into 67? That will be 3. 3 21s are 63. We've got 4 left over. So we put our 4 there. Not as big as that. You'd have it a little bit smaller if you were doing it on a piece of paper. But how many 21s fit into 42 is exactly 2. So our answer is 32. You don't need to put that 0. That's just a placeholder. 32 is the same if it's got a 0 in front or not, but it looks a lot nicer like that. You see it's worth 2 marks there, so you need to show you're working out in order to get the mark. Number 18, we have 2 fractions with different denominators. So the first thing we need to do is get the denominators looking the same. So what we need to do is turn them into equivalent fractions. The easiest way to do that is to turn this one into ninths. In order to do that, we need to multiply both the top and the bottom by something to get 9. 3 times 3 is 9, so I need to multiply this whole fraction, both the top and the bottom, by 3. So if I'm going to do that, 2/3, if I'm going to multiply the top, I'm going to just symbolize it like that, because technically it's not multiplying by 3, but we're multiplying both the top and the bottom by 3, would be 6/9. So that's the equivalent. 2/3 is the same as 6/9. So we can put those together. 4/9 plus 6/9 is very easy to work out. It's just 4 plus 6, which is 10. Not forgetting the ninths. Our answer is 10/9. Some people ask me in the comments, do I need to change this into a mixed number? No, you don't. If you leave it like that, that is absolutely fine. It's easier. Don't bother changing it. Your answer is only worth 1 mark. So that's the answer. Number 19, it's long multiplication. So first thing we start with is this unit number here, 3. 3 times 7 is 21. So we put the 1, we carry our 2. 3 times 0 is 0, plus the 2 is 2. 3 multiplied by 6 is 18. So that's the answer, this bit here, for 3 times 607. We now need to do 80 times 607. So what we do is we put our 0, our placeholder. 8 times 7 is 56. We put our 6, carry our 5 up here. Probably worth getting rid of that 2 that we did before. 8 times nothing is still nothing. Plus 5 is 5. 8 times 6 is 48. So we add these 2 together now. So we just draw a line underneath. 1 plus 0 is 1. 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. Put the 3, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Plus 8 is 10. Put the 0, carry the 1. 4 plus 1 is 5. So our answer is 50,381. In order to get the 2 marks, just like before, you need to show you're working out, which we've done there. Number 20 is another place value question. Before I said if we times by 10, we move everything 1 space to the left. But because we're timesing by 1,000, there's 3 zeros, we move everything 3 places to the left. So we're going to move everything 3 spaces to the left. if you write out the number like this, you can see, put the decimal place, we'll move everything 3 places. So 1, 2, 3, this is where our 1 goes. 1, 2, 3, this is where our 3 goes. Now there's nothing here. 1, 2, 3. This decimal point, we just ignore that. So 1, 2, 3, there's our 5. Now there's nothing left. Everything else is zeros. So in this case, we don't need to talk about this bit. We just write the full number. So it is 13,050. That's what 13.05 times 1,000 is. Number 21 is asking us to add a fraction and a mixed number together. Now, luckily, they've got the same denominator, so that makes it a lot easier to add. But we need to do something about this too. So what you need to remember is that there are 3/3 in a whole, and we have 2 wholes. So we have 6/3 there. That's the same as 2 whole numbers. So if we add that, 6/3 plus 1/3, that is 7/3. That's exactly the same as this number here. 7/3 is exactly the same, equals exactly the same amount. So finally, it's 2/3 plus 7/3, which is 9/3. And again, you don't need to change this into a mixed number. Just leave it as it is and you'll get the mark. Number 22, what's 7/10 of 30? So if you want to work out what 1/10 is, we divide by 10. So 30 divided by 10 is 3. So that equals 1/10. Just write that down so we don't forget. Now we multiply that by 7 because we need 7 lots of this. So 7 times 3 is 21. 21 is the same as 7/10 of 30. A quick clue to suggest you've got this wrong is if this number is bigger than your number you're dividing, that's obviously a red flag, because when you divide by a fraction or find a fraction of a number, it's always going to be smaller. So that's your answer, 21. Number 23, what's 8 subtract 5.123? I'm afraid in this scenario you're going to have to use a written method unless you can do it in your head. But just to explain to everybody, rather than doing it in your head, let's do it at the written method. So we have 8 subtract 5.123. Because there's nothing at the end of 8, it's actually equivalent to 8.000. What we're going to do now is effectively column subtraction. So what is 0 take away 3? We can't do that. So we're going to need to borrow from the column next door, but there's nothing in there either, or the column next door. So what we need to do is borrow from here. We can turn that into a 7. We'll turn that into a 7. We'll borrow 1 and put it there. Now we're going to borrow 1 from here. That's now not 10 anymore, that's 9. We're going to put that 10, that 1 there, and turn that into a 10. We're going to do the same thing again. We're going to borrow 1 from that 10, turn that into a 9, and put the 1 there. So I hope you can see what I've done there. We've just gone right to the end, and we've kept borrowing, passed it to our neighbour, borrowed from them, passed it to the neighbour, and borrowed it again. So we're left with 10 here, subtract 3, which we can now do. 10 take away 3 is 7. 9 take away 2 is also 7. 9 take away 1 is 8. Put our decimal place. 7 subtract 5 is 2. So our answer is 2.877. Number 24. What's 1/8 divided by 2? Now, if you divide a fraction by something, you're effectively multiplying the denominator by whatever that is. The denominator is the bottom number. So 1/8 divided by 2 equals 1/16. So that's your answer, 1/16. Number 25, what is 1/2 plus 1/3? Now, we've done this before. We've got to change the denominators so they're exactly the same. Now, neither of them are divisible by the other, so we need to look for a number that's in the 2 times table and the 3 times table. The easiest one is 6. So we're going to turn these into sixths. What do I need to multiply the top and the bottom by on this half to turn it into sixths? The answer is 3. So if I multiply the top and the bottom, 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. We've got our 6 at the bottom now. Plus, what do we need to multiply here, the top and the bottom by, to turn it into sixths? It's 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So these fractions we've just created are equivalent to the ones above. We can now add them together because they've got the same denominator. So it's 3 plus 2, which is 5, and the denominator stays the same, 5/6. That's your answer. Number 26, we've got a similar question here. So 26 subtract 2.012. Because there's nothing at the end, we can put our zeros there. So we do the same thing. We're going to borrow 1 from here. That's going to become a 5. I'm going to put our 1 there, carry the 1 there. We now have the number 10. I'm going to borrow 1 from that 10, turn that into a 9, carry that 1. We're now going to borrow another 1 from that 10. It's now a 9. There's the 1 that we've borrowed. So, underline that. What's 10 subtract 2? It's 8. What's 9 subtract 1? It's also 8. 9 subtract nothing is 9. Decimal point. 5 subtract 2 is 3. 2 subtract nothing is 2. So our answer is 23.988. Number 27. What's 15% of 3,200? This is fairly easy. If we find 10%, that's the same as dividing by 10. And remember, if we divide by 10, everything moves one place to the right. So 10% of 3,200 is 320. So if we want to find 5%, which we can add on to the 10% to make 15%, we just half this number. So 5% equals, what's half of 320 is 160. If we want to find 15%, then we add these two together. So the answer is 480. Similarly with number 28, find 2% of 3,000. Well, 1% we can divide by 100. If we divide by 100, our answer is 30. So that's 1% of 3,000. Let's just put that down. Equals 1%. So 2% is twice as much. So 30 times 2 is 60. That's our answer. 2% of 3,000 is 60. Number 29, it looks like it's another long division or short division method, whatever you feel comfortable with. So what's 3,066 divided by 73? Whatever method you use, make sure you've shown that and you may get the mark. So I'm going to do short division. So 73 into 3 doesn't go. 73 into 30 then, well, that also doesn't go. So we're looking at 306. How many 73s go into 306? And a good trick you can use is to write the 73 times table down here. And when you get to the number, that's when you can count how many you've got and you know how many you need. So 73 adds 73 is 146, 219, 292, 365. So now we've done that, I think we've got enough at this point. We can say, well, how many 73s fit in to 306? And you can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And what's the remainder? So the difference between 306 and 292 is 8 plus 6, which is 14. So we have 14 that we can squeeze into here. And thankfully, that works. We've got 146 here. How many 73s make 146? The answer is 2. So our answer is 42. Like I mentioned before, if you feel more comfortable doing long division, that's absolutely fine. As long as you show you're working, you'll get the marks. This is something I like to do, and it can be a really good little trick. Number 30, 80% of 115. Very similar to the last ones we did. If we want to find 80%, we can find 10% and multiply it by 8. So to find 10%, we divide by 10. So 115 divided by 10 is 11.5. That is 10%. So we need to multiply this by 8. So 11 times 8 is 88. 8 times a half is 4. Put our 4 there. 88 plus 4 is 92. That's your answer. 80% of 115 is 92. 31, we need to change the denominators here to be able to do this sum. So I know that 63 is in the 7 times table and the 9 times table. How do I know that? Because 7 times 9 is 63. So we need to turn these into 63s. So in order to do that, I'm going to need to multiply this fraction by 9, both the top and the bottom. 2 times 9 is 18. 7 times 9 is 63. Subtract. We need to turn this into 63s now, so we can multiply the top and the bottom by 7. 1 times 7 is 7. 9 times 7 is 63. So what's 18 subtract 7? It's 11. 11 63s. That's your answer. Number 32. It's a mixed number. Subtract a fraction. So we need to do the same thing again, but there's another step. First things first, we need to convert this into an improper fraction. So like we did before, how many halves are there in one whole? Well, it's 2. So how many halves are there in 2 wholes? So that would be 4. There are 4 halves in 2 wholes. So we've got 4 halves plus the 1 half we've already got. That's going to be 5 halves. That's the same as 2.5. So now we've got 5 halves. We need to do exactly the same as we did on a previous question. Which number should we be using? Which common denominator should we be using? So in this case, it'll be sixths, because 6 is in the 2 and the 3 times table. So if I want to turn this into sixths, I'm going to need to multiply the top and the bottom by 3. So that's exactly the same as 15 sixths. That's the same as 5 halves. So in order to turn this into sixths, I need to multiply the top and the bottom by 2. So that'll be 4, because we've done 2 times 2. And then 3 times 2 is 6. So 15 subtract 4 is 11 sixths. That's your answer. It's a little bit more complicated because we've got to change this number, but other than that, it's exactly the same as every other adding and subtracting fraction question we get. Number 33, it's another long multiplication. So remember, we start with the ones. What is 7 times 8? It's 56. Put our 6, carry the 5. 7 times 7 is 49, plus the 5 is 54. Carry the 5. 7 times 0 is nothing, plus 5 is 5. 7 times 4 is 28. We've done the 7s, now we need to put our placeholder. What is 6 times 8? It's 48. Put the 8, carry the 4. I'm going to get rid of these so I don't get confused. Carry the 4. 6 times 7 is 42, plus the 4 is 46. Put the 6, carry the 4 again. 6 times nothing is nothing, plus the 4 is 4. 6 times 4 is 24. So all we need to do is add these lines together. 6 add nothing is 6. 4 add 8 is 12. Put the 2, carry the 1. 6 plus 5 plus 1 is 12. Put the 2, carry the 1. 8 plus 4 is 12, plus the 1 is 13. Put the 3, carry the 1. 2 add 4 is 6, plus the 1 is 7. And finally, 2 plus nothing is 2. So our answer is 273,226. Right, we're on the last few questions. So what do we need to do here? 10 subtract 2 and a quarter. What I would do in this case is, rather than changing this into different fractions, what I would do instead is I would do, what is 10 subtract 2? 10 subtract 2 is 8. Now, we just need to take a quarter off, and you should know there are 4 quarters in a whole. So if we say that 8 is the same as 7 plus 4 quarters, that's exactly the same as 8. Get rid of that. We take away 1 of the quarters, so we have 7 and 3 quarters left. So that is just a little bit of a trick way, so our answer is 7 and 3 quarters. 6 plus 4 divided by 2. This is a BODMAS question. If you're not sure what BODMAS is, I've done a video of that on my channel. It's basically the language of maths. So which do we do first is basically what we need to know. Do we do the addition or do we do the division? BODMAS gives us the order that we should be doing it. And you can see that D for divide is before A for addition. So we do this first. What's 4 divided by 2? Well, the answer is 2. Now we do this bit. What's 6 plus what we've already done? 4 divided by 2, 2. 6 plus 2 is 8. That's your answer, 8. Right, last question now. So what is 4/5 multiplied times 400? Some people get really confused when they see this because it's a multiplication and a fraction. What do I do? 4/5 multiplied by 400 is exactly the same as 4/5 of 400. So if you know how to find a fraction of something, you don't need to be worried. How do we find 4/5? Well, the best way is to find 1/5 and multiply it by 4. So if we want to find 1/5, we could find out what 1/10 is, and then we could double it. So what's 1/10 of 400? It's 40. That equals 1/10. Now if I want to find 1/5, it's going to be twice as much. So 80 is the same as 1/5. Now we know that, we can multiply this by 4 and we'll get 4/5. So what's 80 multiplied by 4? 8 times 4 is 32, but we've got to put that 0 on the end because it's 10 times bigger. Our answer is 320. Okay, I hope you managed to get the marks on that. If for whatever reason you got some questions wrong, that's absolutely fine. That's why you're watching this video, so that you can improve for next time. Nobody's going to get 100% all of the time. So if you did get some questions wrong, write down what they were. It might have been the same sort of question again and again. It might have been division. It might have been fractions. Whatever it is, there will be a video on my YouTube channel that will be designed to help you. So if you need fractions, I've done videos on that. If you need multiplication, I've done videos on that as well. So I hope you found that video useful. Like I mentioned at the beginning, if you did, give it a big thumbs up, leave a comment, and consider subscribing to the channel. It goes a long way to helping me. I will see you in the next video.